Remote access methods. When it comes to remote access, security is top priority, and the method you choose can make a big difference. SSH keys are highly recommended for this purpose because they allow passwordless authentication, which simplifies things for both users and IT. The process is straightforward. The business partner creates a private key, and the public key is installed on the server. Once that's done, the user can access the system securely without ever typing in a password. It's efficient, secure, and doesn't require extra software, just the existing capabilities of most Linux servers. In contrast, other methods come with added complexity. Soft tokens require users to install special software and generate time-based codes, which adds extra steps and potential support headaches. Smart cards are even more complicated, needing both physical hardware and software installation, making them less practical unless you already have the infrastructure in place. Then there's CSR, which isn't even meant for remote login. It's used for generating SSL TLS certificates. So for secure and hassle-free remote access, SSH keys are clearly the best fit. Log management. If you're setting up a system to collect logs from multiple devices, the best way to handle this is through log aggregation. Log aggregation pulls in logs from different systems and stores them in one centralized location. This is super useful for spotting trends, troubleshooting issues, and keeping up with audit requirements. Having all the logs in one place means you don't have to dig through individual devices every time something goes wrong or needs investigating. Other terms you might hear, like DLP, SCAP, and archiving, don't really apply here. DLP is focused on keeping sensitive data from leaking out of the organization. It's not meant for log collection. SCAP helps standardize how we deal with vulnerabilities, but again, it doesn't help with logging. And while archiving does involve storing data, it's typically for long-term storage and doesn't address real-time, centralized monitoring. That's why log aggregation is the top pick when you want to collect and manage system logs effectively. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. Multi-factor authentication is all about adding extra layers of security beyond just a username and password. For example, a company's email system might require a phone call as one factor and a code from an authentication app as another. This approach makes it much harder for someone to break into the account, even if they somehow get the password. Push notifications and SMS messages are also common MFA methods, and they're generally easy for users to handle. It's important to remember that just having a password isn't enough to count as MFA. MFA requires something you know, like a password, something you have, like a phone or security token, or something you are, like a fingerprint. Using two methods from different categories helps ensure it's really you trying to log in. So if you're only using a password and an SMS, you're on the right track. But don't forget that there are more secure methods like app-based tokens that offer better protection. Legacy software risk. Using legacy software might seem like a if it ain't broke, don't fix it situation, but it can actually pose serious risks. The biggest problem? A lack of vendor support. When software gets old, companies stop updating it, meaning no more security patches or bug fixes. If your business is still relying on that unsupported software for critical operations, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of vulnerabilities and compliance issues. There are other risks too, like outdated protocols or weak encryption, but those often stem from the fact that the software can't be updated in the first place. Default system configurations can be another issue, especially if they haven't been reviewed in years. But ultimately, it all comes back to that main problem. Without vendor support, you're on your own. And in today's fast-moving threat landscape, that's not a great place to be. Incident response process. Handling security incidents requires a solid plan, and one of the most critical steps is containment. Let's say you discover a malicious app running on some devices, and you've identified it by a unique hash. Your immediate next step is to isolate those devices, contain the issue before it spreads. Think of it like stopping a fire before it burns down the whole building. You don't want the malware moving laterally throughout the network. Other steps in the incident response process are just as important, but they come at different times. Preparation happens well before an incident. It's about having the tools and plans ready. Recovery comes after containment, when you clean up and get everything back to normal. And lessons learned, that's your chance to reflect and improve your process so the next incident goes more smoothly. But in the heat of the moment, containment is what stops things from getting worse. HTTPS downgrade issue. Ever visit a secure site and then suddenly notice it drops to HTTP with a word delay? That's a red flag, and it's most likely a SSL TLS downgrade attack. In this type of attack, someone intercepts your connection and tricks your browser into using a less secure protocol. Once downgraded, your traffic becomes way easier to read or tamper with. It's like locking your front door only for someone to convince you to leave it wide open instead. Some other explanations sound scary but don't quite fit the situation. DNS hijacking, for example, can reroute you to a fake site entirely, but it doesn't typically mess with your connection security level. A brute force attack on an access point might knock you offline, but it won't cause protocol downgrades. And while a birthday collision is a real cryptographic issue, it's rare and way more technical. In most real-world cases of HTTPS reverting to HTTP, a downgrade attack is your culprit.